This episode is brought to you by The Build, a new podcast from the guys behind Sincera, Mike O'Sullivan and Ian Myers. They built their company by figuring out clever solutions to a few important ad tech problems in their industry. And that's exactly what this show is about. Mike and Ian interview some of the smartest tech minds in the biz to hear about how they identified opportunities, solved their hardest challenges, and grew their businesses in the process. Listen to The Build with Mike O'Sullivan wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is sponsored by Plod AI. We've all been there. You're days away from a deadline and you remember a brilliant idea from a brainstorming session, but you can't find it in your notes. It's frustrating, confusing, and frankly, a waste of time. Recently, I've integrated Plod AI, that's P-L-A-U-D, into my daily workflow, and it's a game changer for staying organized. Plod isn't just an app, it's a hardware-software powerhouse. I use the Note Pro for phone calls, Note Pen for my in-person meetings, and the new Plod desktop app for all my virtual sessions. With one click, it records everything and generates an accurate, searchable transcript. But the real magic is the Ask Plod feature. I can literally ask questions about a meeting from 3 weeks ago and get an instant answer. It turns every conversation into a searchable asset for me and my team. Stop taking notes and focus. Turn your meetings into actionable insights with the world's most advanced AI note taker. Learn more at plod.ai. That's Plaud.ai. And use the promo code CODESTORY, all one word, to get 10% off your purchase.
So early on, I got too attached to the coverage. As I mentioned before, I was focusing on breadth rather than depth. So I actually spent real time trying to make the map light up across the whole state, because a full map looks impressive in a demo. Then I showed an early version to someone in economic development, and they basically said, "This is wide, but can it answer my question about my county better than the analysts I already have?" And right then, it couldn't. I built for the impressive thing instead of the useful thing. I'm Sushma Vadlamannati, founder and CEO of zScale.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
Was nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
Took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their
A
back.
company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
I was
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time.
The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want
It's
it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story. I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today, how Sushma Vadlamannati has built the economic intelligence layer for regions building in the AI economy. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech Domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, I was building my startup and went hunting for that perfect .com and found next to nothing. So I did what every founder does, settled. Here's what I wish someone had told me. You're building a tech startup, just get a .tech domain. It instantly tells investors and customers what you're about. Don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. Unblocked is the context layer your agents are missing. It synthesizes your PRs, docs, Slack, and tickets into organizational context that agents actually understand. So they make better plans, write higher quality code, use fewer tokens, and require fewer correction loops. If you're running Claude Code, Cursor, or any agentic workflow, Unblocked is worth a look. Learn more at getunblocked.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mezmo.com/codestory. That's mezmo.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai. Sushma Vadlamannati is originally from India and moved to the States over 25 years ago to pursue her bachelor's at Texas Women's University. She comes from a non-traditional founder background, spending 15 years in the Fortune 100 companies, leading large programs with large budgets. About 5 years ago, she started advising startups and angel investing, which led her into the startup world in general. Outside of tech, she has 2 daughters and loves to do arts and crafts. In fact, she uses scrap material she finds at home to build miniature scenes and creations. Sushma is very familiar with the startup scene in Texas, and as such, she has a keen understanding of the recurring problem for startups, the local talent pool. In addition to this, she noticed the disconnect between schools, workforce opportunities, and students and workers themselves. She decided to pivot into building this intelligence layer. This is the creation story of zScale.
One of the things that I've been doing over the past few years is I've been meeting many startup founders across Texas and outside of Texas. I kept noticing that a lot of startups in Texas are constrained by one thing, right? The talent. As Texas is incredibly business friendly, we give founders great incentives to start companies here. But one of the things that still I believe the state hasn't built is the local talent pool you need for a really busy startup ecosystem. The thing that you see in Silicon Valley, right? So I started thinking about that gap. And why does a place that's so good at attracting businesses still struggle to grow the people those businesses need? And how do we actually fix that? Over time, as I was observing the same problem, that cascades into the economic development directors that I met, right? The EDCs within the local region. How they are stitching together businesses, and then as part of the site selection process, EDCs spend a ton of time, right? Numerous hours putting the data together that's scattered across multiple websites, not just websites, but multiple sites to get the workforce, the talent pipeline, as well as the expansion highlights that they need. If you look into universities, they are also launching new programs. And the new programs, as the AI is redesigning entire job categories, and new jobs are emerging every few years, or not, it used to be years, but now it's months, with AI taking up on us really fast. So one of the things that I evolved over time is that we are all embracing to prepare ourselves to be ready for AI, but we would need it from the grassroots, right? Where the site selection's happening. We know what kind of businesses are emerging and what kind of businesses are coming into the region. That would give us a full insight into how many job openings, what industries are emerging in the region. And the other 2 aspects, who are the end users, if I may call, is the universities as well as the workforce boards who are trying to skill the students, right? And be prepared for the world and the job opportunities as they graduate out. The zScale idea evolved to be an economic development intelligent platform that connects the dots between what opportunities exist to what kind of skills we are building in the region and how students can actually get the job opportunities, and any professionals who are trying to upskill and reskill, how are they actually getting evolved to be finding the new opportunities as the market shifts. zScale is like a Bloomberg terminal, right? So Bloomberg terminal essentially focuses on financial market decision making, whereas zScale focuses on regional economic signals that helps the EDCs, universities, as well as the workforce boards.
I'm curious if you can dive into the MVP for zScale, for where you've taken it. I'm curious about, how long it took to build and what sort of tools you're using to bring something like this to life.
So I used Claude to build it. My MVP is built on Claude, and we use foundational large language models for the predictive analysis as well. So the MVP is built. How long did it take? We've been iterating, right? So we've been iterating on what we built initially. So over time, we changed the way, the look, feel, and all of that. I think it took about 3 to 4 months for us to build a good demo site for our customers.
Let's dive into maybe a decision or two you had to make in building that MVP, right? That could be around how you approached it, maybe feature limitation or scaling or tech or anything, all those things, right? Tell me about a decision you had to make and how you coped with it.
The biggest trade-off was depth versus breadth, right? So the decisions I made deliberately were around that. For example, we track about 47,000 businesses across 254 counties. So one thing, when I started thinking about building the MVP, I was tempted to go broad and get deep into vibe coding, right? Building database and then tracking all the data across 254 counties and the businesses and all. So I was trying to give a lay of the land of all the businesses that exist in Texas. It was good, right? It gives you the data analysis and it also gives you a bigger picture on what's going on across Texas. But one thing that I heard from people or when I presented, they were getting lost literally. When I spoke with one of the chief innovation officer here in Texas, they really liked this concept because this kind of data helps them with their course alignment as well as increase their graduate outcomes. But one thing they were lost is that this is a lot of data. What does that mean to me for my institution? I kept hearing the same question when I presented to 2 or 3 leaders in Dallas, and I just felt, I think it's just hitting on me. That is a true question. I think I need to consider thinking about what it means for them. So that's when I started thinking through much deeper. So we started focusing on just the institution by institution, region by region. For example, when I went to UTA, I presented at one of the conferences, then one thing that we did was I took all the programs that are related to just that are being offered at UTA Arlington, right? Now I understand what are the courses that are being offered, and my platform can look at all the courses and provide a tailored or a customized view for that institution. So I think to answer your question in short, it's more like the biggest trade-off was depth versus breadth. I never thought about it. So that was very valuable feedback that I received when I presented.
This episode is brought to you by The Build, a new podcast from the guys behind Sincera, Mike O'Sullivan and Ian Myers. They built their company by figuring out clever solutions to a few important ad tech problems in the industry, and that's exactly what this show is about. Mike and Ian interview some of the smartest tech minds at Magnite, Chalice, DoubleClick, and LiveRamp to hear about how they identified opportunities, solved their hardest challenges, and grew their businesses in the process. This show is for you if you've had some of these breakthrough moments yourself, or if you're seeking inspiration for the next one. Listen to The Build with Mike O'Sullivan wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech Domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. Okay, let's move forward then. How have you progressed and how are you going to progress the product forward and mature it? And I'm curious about how you build your roadmap. How do you go about deciding that with zScale, what is the next most important thing to build or to address?
The product maturity comes from different stages. For example, it matured in 3 stages, right? Version 1 was essentially a smart lookup, right? Get all the scattered data. We try to look at all different parameters that can help us bring all the scattered data into one searchable place. It's a conversational AI apart from building complex data reports. So that in itself saved like people hours, right? So we built a search box. Of course, it isn't a moat anymore, but the stage 2 was when we again started layering in the conversational AI layer, find the data into ask a question and get a tailored answer to you, to that institution. So as we look forward, one of the things that I think as part of stage 3 is where right now I'm focusing on is the predictive. Not just here's what the labor market looks like today, right? It's more about not the historical information, but we would want to provide them the predictive analysis based on how it looks like in the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So we have developed a phased plan to build that out. So a job posting scraper, we are feeding in predictive models for program success and also identifying the skill gap forecasting as well. So heavy focus is now being spent into the predictive analysis now that we have a foundation of the historical data from labor market analytics.
So I'm curious about team, right? To do something like this, to build something like this, you got to have the right people at the helm. I'm curious about how you build your team and what do you look for in those people to indicate that they are the winning horses to join you?
That's definitely a great question, mainly because I want to be honest about it. Right now, the team is lean. I am doing a lot of building myself, and which is why I'm leaning so hard into the AI-assisted tools. I utilize AI virtual assistants to schedule the meetings and also help me with the product grooming. And one thing that I'm also trying to develop is a personal dashboard and personal assistant for myself that can help me schedule the meetings as well as find right kind of leads and how can I spend my time on building the product, also meeting the people, as well as in what ways I can utilize the AI tools to automate my life.
This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. Your coding agents have access to your code base. Maybe you even connected other tools via MCPs. But access doesn't mean context. Agents can't reason across MCPs. They don't know your architectural decisions, your team's patterns, or why the API was shaped the way it is. So agents look in the wrong place and deliver bad outputs. Then you spend time correcting. More loops, more tokens. Unblocked is the context layer your agents are missing. It synthesizes your PRs, docs, Slack, and tickets into organizational context that agents actually understand. So they make better plans, write higher quality code, use fewer tokens, and require fewer correction loops. If you're running Claude Code, Cursor, or any agentic workflow, Unblocked is worth a look. Learn more at getunblocked.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's mezmo.com/codestory. Let's talk about scalability, and I think this will be interesting, especially given your answer just now. I'm curious about how you are going to approach scalability in the future, and if there's even to date, or if you expect, interesting areas where you're going to have to fight scale as you grow.
Any founder who says otherwise is selling you something, right? So on the technical side, I build deliberately for scale. The architecture, I would think, is the same, whether it's serving one region or all 254 counties. So adding regions is a data problem, not a rebuild. So the infrastructure is right in place, which I can utilize for one region versus 254 regions. And that's something that I'm really proud of. And I think where I am fighting, honestly, is the data ingestion and the go-to market, right? So every new region means you're trying another set of state, another set of federal resources into clean, queryable shape, right? So the institutional sales, universities, government moves in its own timeline. So the thing that I'm actively looking into is how do I scale data coverage and trust as fast as the technology can technically handle. So the software's ready to scale faster than the market buys. That's a good problem, but it's the real one, which I'm focusing on right now.
So as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built thus far with zScale. What are you most proud of?
Two things, right? So the first one, I think I should say it's funny to admit, I'm proud that I'm actually built a real working product. I came from the program side, operational side, and investing side. So not from being an hands-on engineer. So for years, I was the person who advised builders to sit down and ship a platform with a live AI agent answering real questions. That actually changed something in my own head about who I am allowed to be. And the second thing is slightly on the quieter side. So every feature in zScale comes from a real person who told me they were stuck. A director who lost a weekend to an RFP, a dean worried about launching a program into a job market that wouldn't be there. So I'm proud that the product is built from other people's real problems, not from my own guesses. So that's the part that means the most to me. So we are solving for real world problems that we see on hand, which is going to help institutions in a very meaningful way.
Very good. Okay, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
So early on, I got too attached to the coverage. As I mentioned before, I was focusing on breadth rather than depth. I spent a lot of time trying to make the map light up across the whole state, because a full map looks impressive in a demo. Then I showed an early version to someone in economic development, and they basically said, "This is wide, but can it answer my question about my county better than the analysts I already have?" And right then, it couldn't. I built for the impressive thing instead of the useful thing. That was hard to hear, but it was the best feedback I got. I dropped the breadth first plan and went deep on one region instead. Since I am early, team response came from my advisors and founder friends. And to their credit, nobody let me off easy. The lesson I took away is build for the one buyer who has to say yes, not for the room you are presenting to. I give that advice all the time now, and it's because I got it wrong first.
Let's move into the future. This will be really interesting given, where you're heading and the problem that you're solving here with zScale as it is today. What does the future look like for the product, for, where the industry is going, for the team, all the things?
In the near term, I think the way how I look at it is I am looking for a case study, right? So land the first design partner, whether it's a university, a EDC, who can build zScale alongside with us. And let the predictive layer prove by itself. So once that works in Texas, the model is built to go region by region, then national. So the bigger goal, and if I may call, is the one that I'm really building toward, is a world where no institution makes $1 million talent decision on old data and gut feel. For example, a 17-year-old picking a major, a provost designing a program, and an EDC trying to recruit an employer are all working from the same up-to-date picture of where the economy is heading. zScale is the layer underneath all of that.
Let's switch to you, Sushma. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
I think a few people that shaped up my thinking and my process. In the workforce world, I really follow Ryan Craig, who does the gap ladder, and Van Ton Kinlevin changed how I think about the education to jobs problem. They treat it as a serious data-driven field, not a soft one. That gave me permission to be rigorous about it too. But the bigger influence is the 100+ founders I have advised and invested in. Every one of them taught me something about conviction, about how you keep going when it's just you and the idea and the room's empty, right? So there's no one to support you. I basically borrowed my whole way of working from watching them. Stay close to the customer, ship before you feel ready, and be honest about where you are. Honestly, I think sitting here talking to you is me on the other side of advice I've given 100 times.
I appreciate that. Okay, speaking of advice, let's move into the last question. So you're sitting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. And can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit on your own and also, investing in many startups and being very familiar with this type of space?
I would think of 3 things, Noah, honestly. One is fall in love with the problem, not your solution. Because over time, I've seen few founders who are very passionate about what they are building, but I would want them to be focusing on what problem they are solving and who are they helping. So your first solution is almost certainly wrong, right? Just like the way how my product evolved over time. I would think that any founder's journey would start with something that that you are going to be a builder, you are going to be building something, but the product is going to evolve over time. But if you happen to love the problem, you will survive being wrong long enough to get it right. And that's one thing. And the second one is find one customer who has to say yes to what you're building, right? And the third one is, and again, I think I learned this hard way, the people with the best data win, right? Not the loudest, not the best funded. So whatever you're building, keep asking, am I helping someone make a better decision? If yes, then I would think that you got something real. If you are just adding features, you're not there yet. So I would probably ask to hear their entire whole story because that's my actual favorite thing in the world. What are you solving for, and what the problem that you can solve for someone, and get your first customer. And I think getting first yes is really important. So focus on that.
All great pieces of advice. Well, Sushma, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story and the evolution of zScale.
It's wonderful to share my journey with you. Thank you very much for having me.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Capital One's tech team isn't just talking about multi-agentic AI. They already deployed one. It's called Chat Concierge, and it's simplifying car shopping. Using self-reflection and layered reasoning with live API checks, it doesn't just help buyers find a car they love. It helps schedule a test drive, get pre-approved for financing, and estimate trade-in value. Advanced, intuitive, and deployed. That's how they stack. That's technology at Capital One.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.